amid the ongoing controversy over the government allegedly suppressing unfavorable jobs reports from its own agencies, such as the NSSO, which said that India's unemployment rate was at a 45-year high in 2017-18. Now, a new report has come which claims that 50 lakh men lost their jobs after demonetization. The report, which was prepared by the Center for Sustainable Development of the Azim Premji University in Bengaluru, says most of those who lost jobs are from vulnerable sections who work in the informal sector, and jobs lost in 2 years after demonetization was announced. Well, to talk to us more about this report, we're joined by Anand Srivastav, the co-author of the State of Working India teaches at this university. Thank you so much for speaking to us. You also say in your report that, while the job losses take place after demonetization, you say also that no causal link can be established because of the available data. So tell us more about this. Mr. Srivastav, can you hear me? All right, we seem to be having a technical issue there. Mr. Srivastav, can you hear me? We wanted to ask you about this report, this latest report that has come out, which claims that 50 lakh men lost their jobs after demonetization. This report was prepared by the Center for Sustainable Development of the Azim Premji University in Bengaluru, and says that most of the men who lost their jobs were from the vulnerable sections.
Hello, hi Karvi.
Yeah, all right. Well, it seems we've got the line back there with Mr. Anand Srivastav, who's the co-author of this report. I was asking you actually that the report says that while the decline in the job starts from the time of demonetization, no causal link can be established based on available data. So if you could tell us more about this.
Yeah, so we are in the absence of government data on jobs. We use data from this private survey organization called Center for Monitoring the Indian Economy, CMIE, and they do surveys 3 times every year, and we have data from starting from the first 4 months of January 2016 to 2018. So what we find is that the percentage of people employed starts declining after the 3rd wave of the survey. And coincidentally, that is the time when demonetization was announced. So although we can't say that the decline was because of demonetization, we do find that the decline starts at the same time that this policy announcement was made.
Right, and the reasons, of course, at the time of demonetization, we all remember when factories were having big issues about cash flows and payments. A lot of people had to actually return to their original villages and towns, and they had to leave the factories, and many of them never came back. So tell us more about, because you say it's the most vulnerable sections that faced the worst when it came to job losses then.
Yes, so if we divide the population into people who have education of 12th standard or higher and people who have education lower, we see that the decline in employment rate has happened for the people with lower education levels. And this goes with the story that most of the impact was in the informal sector, where you would expect most of these people to work. And the worrying thing is that the decline has continued and has not the numbers have not come back. So the decline in worker participation rate keeps going on till the last wave, which is the last 4 months of 2018. So I think the overall picture is that there is an employment crisis, and it is not just about unemployment, which is an issue of the educated youth, but it is also a story of loss of work opportunities of people who are less educated and work in the informal sector.
Right, and Mr. Srivastav, the report also says that given these findings, it calls for an urgent policy intervention. And so you say that there needs to be, there's also on one hand, it seems like the government is not accepting, because the fact that there were these massive job losses. So here you're asking for a policy intervention, whereas we don't even have any proper data or official data on the amount of what the unemployment situation is and what the job losses were. Right, Mr. Srivastav, can you hear me? All right, we seem to have lost the
I'm
line
sorry,
there with
yes,
Mr.
lost
Srivastava, one of the co-authors of this report that has just been released, which talks about how India's unemployment after demonetization, that 50 lakh men lost their jobs after demonetization. And Mr. Srivastava, back there with us. Anand, I was just saying that, on the one hand, your report talks about how there needs to be urgent sort of intervention by the government over these job losses, but on the other hand, it seems that there's this sort of ostrich attitude and this refusal to acknowledge that there have been these job losses and there's an unemployment crisis.
I think that's the main point of the report, that whichever way you look at it, you must acknowledge that there is a problem, and the larger question is, what do we do about the problem? So in the report, we present a few policy choices. We talk about an urban employment guarantee program, which would use generate employment and kind of restore public goods for towns and cities. We talk about providing universal basic services, where there's a huge deficit in the areas of education, health, and housing, where the government could pitch in and improve the services and provide good quality jobs for. And we also say that there is this idea that the government can't spend to increase jobs, and there's a kind of fiscal deficit number that we have to reach, is really not true, and the government should not be hesitant in spending revenue to create jobs when there is a crisis.